I'm Aiden.
Behind the camera is Jada doing all of the editing.
And I want to talk today about what it means to be human. As we've talked about in class, there are many different characteristics that are unique to humanity, like our ability to reason, to kind of form judgments through a process of logic. Animals are not doing that. They're just doing what they need to do to survive, and they're not really thinking about it. Cruelty, that's another thing that's just us. Our ability to kind of relish in causing pain and suffering. Animals are not doing that. They can be very savage, they can be dark, but it's not intentional in the way that humans can be very, very cruel and very savage. I think also our ability to philosophize, of course, like our ability to consider the nature of reality, the afterlife, what our purpose is. These are all very uniquely human characteristics. But there's one big baddie, kind of the membrane of the cell that holds everything together, and that to me is ethics. All of the characteristics that I've talked about, they can only occur through an ethical framework, if that makes sense. We're the only species that kind of builds a moral system to guide how we treat others and understand responsibilities beyond mere survival. And again, it's through all of those things that are guided by ethics as a whole. When we see someone who kind of lives outside of an ethical existence or outside of that framework, we see them as almost animalistic. They're living a very instinct-driven life. It's kind of false. It's very half-lived. They're certainly not thriving. They're just surviving. And the main reason for that is because living ethically means to live with reason. It means to live kind of philosophically, and that requires sacrificing self-interest. Self-interest for all other species on Earth is how they survive. Our ability to kind of make that distinction is what allows us to thrive. This is what encourages human flourishing. I can rap about this all I want, but I think the easiest way to prove my argument is to kind of talk about what it looks like when you live outside of ethics or outside of a moral framework. And I am not about to go ruin my own life filming examples for you. So I found a TV show that I think will do it for me. The Sopranos is compellingly philosophical because it shows us how its main character, Tony, struggles with being not fully human. The show is really a struggle between Tony wanting to live richly but refusing to forgo his own self-interest to do so. Tony is the head of a large mafia family who begins the series by starting therapy to treat his anxiety and his depression, and he says that he feels nothing.
I don't feel nothing. Nothing. Dead.
But he refuses to acknowledge that it's the very lifestyle that he covets so severely that's preventing him from flourishing. He spends the entire series actively shutting down the moral traits that distinguish humans from animals: empathy, responsibility, self-reflection, temperance, kindness. Tony possesses all the tools needed for ethical development. He's intelligent, he's perceptive, but those moments never stick. Tony consistently chooses against the moral life that he recognizes. His famous line,
I'm in a waste management business,
isn't just a joke. It's a metaphor for how he tries to bury his own ethical qualms under layers of denial. At the heart of the show is Tony's relentless pursuit of money and status. His entire identity is rooted in maintaining financial and social power, and anything that threatens that power, especially ethical restraint, is immediately abandoned. Capitalistic gain becomes his substitute for moral growth throughout the whole show. Instead of generosity, he consistently chooses accumulation. Instead of community, he chooses a hierarchy. And instead of friendship, he chooses usefulness. And instead of flourishing, he chooses winning. But this makes him miserable. He lives in anxiety and loneliness. His relationships are conditional. He's surrounded by people, but he's the loneliest person on earth. And his suffering is the direct result of preventing himself from accessing the moral life that makes human flourishing possible. This is the tragic heart of The Sopranos. Tony could be human in the fullest sense, but he chooses this diminished version of humanity because it benefits him materially. His lack of ethical commitment is not an absence of reasoning. It's a rejection of the very traits that elevate us above an animalistic existence. In the end, he's truly better off dead.
I'm not a husband to my wife. I'm not a father to my kids. I'm not a friend to my friends. I'm nothing.
So there we go. Ethics is humanity. To be ethical, to live a moral existence, is to embrace being human, and to reject ethics, to turn your back on moral living, is to reject humanity as a whole. And while that may be great for you monetarily, maybe materially, it certainly isn't good for assigning any meaning to your life, and it certainly isn't a painless existence. It kind of seems like you just suffer in a moral agony until it's over. So, glad we all took this class and now we know better.